Imagine this. One morning, a tired man in old clothes walks into a noisy shoe factory. He looks like everyone else. He works like everyone else. But this man is not just any worker. He is President Ibrahim Traoré, the leader of Burkina Faso. He is hiding his true identity. No one knows who he really is. Why is he there? What is he looking for? And what will happen when the truth comes out? This story is not a fairy tale. It is a real African tale that will surprise you, shock you, and maybe even change the way you think about leaders forever. President Traoré was not like other leaders. He wanted to see the truth with his own eyes. He could not sleep. He kept thinking about the stories of workers suffering, cruel bosses, and hungry families. He wanted to feel what his people felt. So, he made a plan. He called his friend Amadou and said, "Tomorrow, I will become a worker. I want to see the truth." Amadou was scared, but the president was sure. A real leader must know the pain of his people, he said. Before sunrise, President Traoré put on old, dirty clothes. He covered his face with dust, pulled a cap low, and left his big house quietly. No guards, no fancy cars. He walked through the busy streets. No one noticed him. No one looked twice. He felt nervous, but excited. For the first time, he was just like everyone else. At the factory gate, the guard asked, "Name?" The president said, "Ibrahim." The guard waved him in. Inside, the factory was chaos. Machines roared. People shouted. The air was thick with dust. The president joined a group making shoes. The work was hard. His hands hurt. His back ached. But he kept going. He wanted to know the real life of his people. He met Fatou, who sang while she worked, even though she was tired. Moussa, with only one leg, moved slowly but never stopped. Awa, just a girl, dreamed of school but had to work. The president listened. He saw their pain, their hope, their kindness. They shared food, water, and jokes, even when they were hungry. But the boss, Mr. Cone, was cruel. He shouted. He took money from workers for small mistakes. Sometimes, he even took their lunch. The machines were old and dangerous. One day, sparks flew from a broken machine. Workers jumped back, scared. Mr. Cone yelled, "Keep working. No time to stop." The president felt angry, but he stayed quiet. He wanted to see more. The president noticed how the workers started their day. They arrived before sunrise, some walking for miles. Their shoes were worn out, their clothes faded. They lined up for a quick check, then rushed to their stations. The air was always hot, and the fans barely worked. The workers wiped sweat from their faces, but they did not stop. They had families to feed. The president felt the weight of every hour. He saw how the workers counted every coin, saving a little for food, a little for rent, and sometimes nothing was left. During lunch, the workers sat together on the floor. They shared small bowls of rice and beans. Fatou always gave a little to Awa, who was too shy to ask. Moussa told funny stories to make everyone laugh. The president listened, learning about their lives. He heard about sick children, broken homes, and dreams that seemed too far away. He saw how they helped each other, even when they had little. He realized that these people were strong, not because life was easy, but because they never gave up. The work was never ending. The machines were loud, and the smell of glue filled the air. The president's hands became rough and sore. He learned how to cut leather, sew pieces together, and check for mistakes. If a shoe was not perfect, Mr. Cone shouted and made the workers start again. The president saw how fear made people work faster, but also made them tired and sad. He saw how some workers hid their pain, afraid to lose their jobs. One afternoon, a new worker joined the team. Her name was Miriam. She was quiet and kept her head down. The others welcomed her, but she did not smile. The president noticed her hands were shaking. Later, he learned that her husband was sick, and she was the only one working. She was afraid of making mistakes. The president helped her, showing her how to use the machine. He spoke softly, and for the first time, Miriam smiled. The other workers saw this and started helping each other more. The president felt proud, but he also felt sad. He wished he could do more. The days passed quickly. Every day, the president learned something new. He saw how the workers made the best shoes with old tools. He saw how they fixed broken machines with wire and tape. He saw how they cheered when someone finished a big order. He saw how they cried when someone lost their job. The president felt every emotion. He was tired, hungry, and sometimes angry, but he never gave up. He noticed how the workers helped each other outside the factory. When Fatou's child was sick, the other workers collected money for medicine. When Mousa's roof leaked, the workers came on a Sunday to fix it. The president joined them, carrying wood and nails. He saw how community and friendship were the real strength of the workers. One day, the president followed Fatou home after work. Her house was small, with only 2 rooms. Her children ran to her, hugging her tightly. She smiled, but the president saw the worry in her eyes. She cooked a simple meal of porridge and shared it with her children. The president noticed how carefully she divided the food, making sure everyone had enough. He saw the old, broken furniture and the thin blankets on the beds. He realized that even after a long day of work, Fatou's struggle did not end at the factory. The next day, the president visited Moussa. Moussa lived alone in a small hut. He had lost his wife years ago. He showed the president his old photos and told stories of better times. Moussa's leg hurt, but he never complained. He made tea for the president and talked about his dreams for the future. He wanted to save enough money to fix his roof before the rainy season. The president listened, feeling the weight of Moussa's loneliness and hope. Awa invited the president to her home. She lived with her parents and 3 younger siblings. Her father was sick and could not work. Awa was the only one earning money. She showed the president her school books. She studied at night, using a small lamp. She wanted to become a teacher one day. The president saw her determination and promised himself to help her. The president also visited Miriam. Her husband was lying on a mat, coughing. The house was quiet. Miriam worked hard, but the money was never enough for medicine. The president gave her some of his own money, but he knew it was not enough. He saw how illness and poverty were connected, and how hard it was for families to escape. Back at the factory, the president noticed new problems. The water in the factory was dirty. Some workers got sick from drinking it. The toilets were broken, and the smell was bad. The president tried to fix the water tap, but it was too old. He told the other workers to boil their water before drinking. He saw how small problems could become big dangers for the workers. One morning, a fire broke out in the storage room. The workers panicked. The fire spread quickly. The president grabbed a bucket and started throwing water on the flames. Other workers joined him. Together, they put out the fire before it reached the main factory. Mr. Cohn was angry and blamed the workers for the fire. The president stood up and said, "We saved your factory. You should thank us, not blame us." The workers cheered. For the first time, they felt strong together. One day, a government inspector came to the factory. Mr. Cohn tried to hide the broken machines and the dirty water. The president watched as the inspector walked around, writing notes. The workers were scared to speak. The president whispered to Fatou, "Tell the truth." Fatou gathered her courage and told the inspector about the problems. Other workers joined her. The inspector promised to report everything to the government. Mr. Cohn was furious, but he could not stop the workers now. The president also learned about the workers' dreams. Some wanted to start their own businesses. Some wanted to send their children to school. Some wanted to buy land and build better homes. The president listened to every story. He wrote down their ideas and promised to remember them. One evening, the president sat with the workers around a small fire. They shared stories and sang songs. The president told a story from his own childhood, about how his mother worked hard to feed the family. The workers listened, surprised that the president had known hard times too. They felt closer to him, even though they did not know who he really was. The next day, the president saw a group of children outside the factory. They were playing with old tires and sticks. He asked them why they were not in school. They said their parents could not afford the fees. The president felt sad. He remembered Awa's dream of becoming a teacher. He promised himself to help these children too. The president also noticed how the women in the factory worked harder than anyone. They finished their work, then went home to cook, clean, and care for their families. He saw how tired they were, but they never complained. He decided to talk to the women and ask what would make their lives better. They said they wanted a safe place for their children to stay while they worked. The president wrote down their idea. One day, a big storm hit the city. The factory roof leaked, and water flooded the floor. The workers tried to keep working, but the machine started to spark. The president told everyone to stop and move to safety. Mr. Cohn shouted, but the workers listened to the president. No one was hurt, but the factory lost a day of work. The president saw how dangerous the old building was. He promised himself to fix it if he ever had the power. The president also saw how the workers celebrated small victories. When someone finished a big order, they clapped and cheered. When someone had a birthday, they shared a small cake. The president joined every celebration, feeling the joy and hope of the workers. One morning, the president woke up with a fever. He went to work anyway, not wanting to miss a day's pay. Fatou noticed he was sick and gave him some herbal tea. Moussa told him to rest, but the president kept working. He realized how hard it was for workers to take a day off when they were sick. He promised himself to create a health clinic for workers one day. The president also saw how the workers faced problems with the police. Sometimes, the police came to the factory and asked for bribes. If the workers did not pay, they were threatened. The president saw how scared the workers were. He decided to talk to the police chief one day and asked for justice. One day, a famous journalist came to the factory. She wanted to write a story about the workers. Mr. Cohn tried to stop her, but the workers invited her in. The president told her about the problems in the factory. The journalist took photos and wrote down every word. A week later, the story was on the front page of the newspaper. People all over the city read about the workers' struggles. The president saw how powerful the truth could be. The president also learned about the workers' traditions. They had a special dance they performed at the end of every month. The president joined the dance, laughing and clapping. He saw how culture and tradition gave the workers strength. One day, the president saw a worker named Issa crying. Issa's wife had died, and he had no money for the funeral. The workers collected money and helped Issa. The president gave his own money too. He saw how important it was for workers to support each other in hard times. The president also saw how the workers saved money together. They had a small savings group. Every week, they put a little money in a box. When someone needed help, they used the money. The president thought this was a good idea and promised to help them grow their savings. One day, the president saw a group of workers arguing. They were fighting over a mistake on the production line. The president stepped in and helped them solve the problem. He taught them how to work together and forgive each other. The workers thanked him, and the factory became a happier place. The president also saw how the workers faced problems with transport. Many walked for hours to reach the factory. Some rode old bicycles. The president promised himself to build better roads and provide buses for workers one day. One evening, the president sat with the workers and watched the sunset. They talked about their dreams for the future. The president listened to every word, feeling the hope and strength of the workers. The next day, the president saw a group of workers helping a stray dog. They fed the dog and made a small bed for it. The president saw how kind the workers were, even to animals. He realized that kindness was the true strength of the workers. The president also saw how the workers faced problems with the weather. In the hot season, the factory was like an oven. In the rainy season, the roof leaked. The president promised himself to build better factories with good roofs and fans. One day, the president saw a worker named Salif teaching others how to fix machines. Salif was smart and patient. The president told Salif he should be a supervisor one day. Salif smiled, feeling proud. The president also saw how the workers celebrated holidays. They wore their best clothes and brought food to share. The president joined every celebration, feeling the joy and hope of the workers. The president learned so much from his time in the factory. He saw the pain, the hope, the kindness, and the strength of the workers. He promised himself to never forget what he learned. When the day finally came for the president to reveal his true identity, the workers were shocked. They could not believe that the man who worked beside them was the president, but they were happy because they knew he understood their lives. The president kept his promises. He fixed the factory, built a health clinic, provided clean water, and made sure every worker was treated with respect. He helped the workers' children go to school. He built better roads and provided buses for workers. He made sure the police treated workers fairly. He helped the workers start their own businesses and grow their savings. The workers' lives changed forever. They were happier, healthier, and stronger. They knew that their president cared about them. They knew that their voices mattered. And so, the story of President Ibrahim Traoré, the president who became a worker, became a legend in Burkina Faso. People told the story for generations, teaching their children about courage, kindness, and the power of truth. So, what would you do if you saw your leader working beside you? Would you recognize him? Would you treat him differently? Sometimes, the greatest leaders are those who walk among us, sharing our struggles and helping us rise. This is the story of President Ibrahim Traoré, the president who became a worker, and the day that changed a nation forever. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more amazing African tales, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We share stories of courage, hope, and real life from across Africa. Hit the like button if you believe in true leaders, and share this video with your friends and family. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories to you every week. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes, the greatest stories are the ones that happen in real life. See you in the next video.